Jeff, yeah, when they're ready, Jeff and Earl. All right, ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. We're gonna get back into this. Now, Tim was very interesting, and I think we all learned some strategies that we could probably deploy to make sure that our engagement at the Vietnam Wall is better for the veterans that we take. And I think that was really, really exciting. I'm glad he was here. So what we're gonna do is we're about to have a conversation. And we have some of our friends here. Now, do me a favor. Just raise your hand if you've ever heard the name Earl Morse. I didn't say make noise. Just raise your hand. Raise your hand if you know my friend Jeff Miller. Okay. Now raise both hands if you love those guys. Okay. Now, what you may notice is we're about to have a conversation, and those guys are humble, and I want to do something with you, and I need your help. We're going to honor them, because I don't know if you know this or not, but we're turning 20 years old, right? I look great for 20. And we're going to bring them one at a time. We're going to bring them one at a time in, and we are going to give them the loudest, most thunderous applause possible. I want you yelling. I want you screaming. I want you throwing things at them. If you look under your table, there's a stack of bricks. I'm kidding. No. Okay. But if you look on top of your table, there's some little American flags. And if there should be one there for everybody. And when we do this, you can wave your flags. You can scream. You can yell. You can chant. You can cheer. You can be happy. But we are going to be so incredibly loud. How loud? Loud. Okay? I want to be so loud that your phone, that your watch, your Apple Watch says, no, too loud, like you're at a football game. You understand? You understand? Can you guys do that with me? You see why I got you up to shake your booty? Because I need that energy. Okay? All right. Go ahead and stand up. Let's do this. All right, ladies and gentlemen, for the first time at the Honor Flight Network 20th celebration and summit, we're going to welcome our great friend, ladies and gentlemen, co-founder Earl Morse. Woo! Ladies and gentlemen, Earl Morse.
Thank you. Dreamy Christmas.
You're right on. Yeah.
All right.
When I'm wet, maybe 106.
All right. One more time. Ladies and gentlemen, Earl Morse! I'm going to say Earl. You say Morse. Earl! Earl!
Stop it.
You say Earl.
Earl.
All right. We're going to do it for our other friend. Is that okay with you? Or do you just want to do this by yourself?
No.
Oh, okay,
I
okay.
need my partner.
You need your partner. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honor Flight Network 20th Summit recognizes our great friend, Jeff Miller! Jeff Miller! Woo! Jeff! Jeff!
No!
Thanks a lot.
You gotta say Jeff. You ready? 1, 2, 3.
Jeff.
Miller! Miller!
Earl! All right, ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. We've got the wonderful Jeff Miller. We've got the wonderful Earl Morse. And if you please put your hands together for my wonderful friend, the National Vice Chair of the Honor Flight Network, Theresa Werner.
How do you follow that?
How the heck do I follow that? You guys are awesome. I am so honored to have an intimate conversation here with Jeff and Earl. Intimate in our living room with a couple hundred of our closest friends. Goodness, these chairs are like...
Say, Just for the.
I'm a tall person, and I'm like, this is not working for me. All right, we are very grateful and very honored that you are here with us for the 20th celebration of Honor Flight. And I know that both of you are very selfless and have stepped back from Honor Flight sometimes because you want the Honor Flight legacy to carry on, because it's not just your project. It has now become, I believe, America's project.
What the?
With the help of all of these people out here. But what these two gentlemen don't realize, that to everybody in this room and everybody in our Honor Flight family, you two are rock stars. And everybody loves to be able to talk to you, to hear your stories, because without the two of you, we would have some pretty boring lives. What would you all be doing on a random Saturday in April? So I'm going to get down to the questions, because as much as I like to hear myself talk, I'm pretty sure you're not here to hear me talk. So, Earl, reflecting over the past 20 years, what has surprised you the most about the impact that Honor Flight has had on the veterans and their families?
I would have to sum it up with a little story. First started Honor Flight, we thought it would be a good idea at the end of flying season to get all the veterans back. We did like 4 or 5 flights, and so we have all the veterans come back. And sadly, I try to make my way around to all the veterans and all the guardians and chat with them, say, did you like your Honor Flight trip? Well, as that was going on, this young lady came up to me and she goes, would you please come over here? I've got something that I want you to look at. Well, she wasn't a veteran, and I got pulled in a lot of directions, so I didn't get to do it. And 2 weeks later, we're up at the office, and she'd come up to the office, and she brought all these pictures, and she goes, I was going to show you these at the reception, but you didn't get to see them. I said, oh, I'm sorry. So she laid out all these pictures, and she goes, what do you see? And I said, well, yeah, there's your dad, there's your family, you know, Owen Mills and Sears portraits and stuff like that, and then there's a couple pictures of him, you know, Honor Flight pictures. And she goes, what do you see? And I said, that looks like a beautiful family. She goes, look real close. Okay, really, really beautiful family. I don't know what she was fishing for. And then she told me, and it was pretty obvious. She goes, here's my dad's childhood, and then here we have all these family portraits. And then after Honor Flight, in every family portrait, she goes, Dad never smiled. He never, ever smiled. And I looked down at that, and sure enough, man, I was feeling sorry for that photographer that's trying to get everybody to smile with a squeaky duck or something like that, and he never smiled. And then she goes, and here's after his Honor Flight trip. And he was smiling in every picture. And she told me, she goes, you changed my dad, and then you changed our family. She goes, those last 6 months with my dad, that I didn't know he was my dad because he was solemn and reserved. She goes, I got to spend those last 6 months with my real dad, and I can't thank you enough for that. The impact that Honor Flight has, I thought it would be a great idea for the veterans. I had no idea what this was going to mean to their families, to their communities. That's probably been the greatest surprise and fulfillment out of what I've seen in the past 20 years.
Jeff, what is the biggest impact that surprised you about Honor Flight?
Surprise? How many surprises have we all had, you know? we could all get into a story that's really emotional. But what I guess the thing that I've noticed the most, because we've been doing this for so long, the World War II veterans, when we gave them, took them on a trip up to D.C., gave them honor, they'd been doing reunions for a long time. They came back from the war. They knew they'd kicked some ass, and they were welcomed home, but they just went straight back to work and rebuilding this country and the nation and the world, And so we gave them some more reunions, some great times to get together. We took them to a memorial that most of them wouldn't have seen otherwise, which was a great pickup on Earl's part to see that need. The Korean War veterans, they just are so thankful that they weren't forgotten, that what they did, and you go ask the South Koreans if they did anything, and you'll get a very legitimate answer from them. But what I'm seeing right now with the Vietnam veterans is a whole different thing from the World War II and Korea. This is an opportunity to change a wrong, to right a wrong, and to help a whole generation of humble heroes realize that they did a very honorable thing. They did what they were asked to do, and we really do want to welcome them home. So that piece, to me, the first day that I did my first flight, which was in September 23rd, 2006, we only went to the World War II Memorial and then over to Arlington. When we got home that night, we discussed it and said we had more time, and we were crazy. We never did this again. We went up the next day with another group. And yeah, I know it was crazy, but you don't know better. So we went to the World War II Memorial first, and then we went over to Lincoln, Korea, Vietnam, and then we went to Arlington. But we had a lot of Vietnam veterans that were guardians on that flight. And what I saw at the World War II Memorial was this Vietnam veteran leading these two World War II veterans around. They were just having a great time and looking at everything. They had their moments in front of the Wall of Stars. But then we went over to the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. And I walked down after I'd cleared the buses and went down and walked into the wall, and I looked, and the Vietnam veteran had his hand on a name and was just sobbing. It was his first trip to the wall, and the two World War II veterans were holding him up, literally holding him up. And at that day in 2006, I knew Vietnam and everybody in between, and I want to emphasize that, everybody in between needed to have this trip. And that was burned in my brain from the get-go, and I'm very grateful to see that a whole lot of people have carried it on. So that's the part that I can tell and not lose it. So. Thank you.
Jeff, and I think you just touched on this, but I feel that what's often reported from the veterans that have returned from an honor flight is the camaraderie and the mutual support that they've received, and how in different ways that changes them and their family. And honor flight has evolved from bringing the World War II veterans to Korean and the Vietnam veterans. And you alluded to it, and Earl, if you would comment too on how important it is that all veterans that are from World War II through Vietnam are included on an honor flight.
Oh, yeah. Without question. I understand that there were some gaps between World War II Korea and then Korea and Vietnam. Those veterans that just happened to fall in those gaps, they didn't have nothing to do with that. I mean, they signed on the dotted line. And me, myself, I did 21 years in the Air Force, and I was a peacetime veteran doing 21 years. But several of my friends were killed. They died, not in Vietnam or Korea, but usually, you're looking at Grenada, you're looking at Panama, several other conflicts. The drug war in South America. You will never understand everything that went on there. And there were conflicts in between World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. They didn't make the headlines, but they served, and they risked their lives. And if you know anything about World War II and the pilots that served during World War II, what killed most pilots in World War II? Question.
Training.
Training, accidents. Training is ongoing in the military. And to say, yeah, but you weren't actually in World War II, you weren't actually in Vietnam. So your service and the sacrifice of your friends in that period doesn't count. The one thing I've loved about Honor Flight since inception is we are inclusive. It doesn't matter where you served. It doesn't matter the color of your skin, your race, gender. It doesn't matter. You signed on the dotted line. I'm asking you, I'm pleading with you as a personal favor to me, don't turn your backs on those veterans that happen to fall into those cracks on their DD-214. They were willing to die for this nation, with or without a war. So that's what I, sorry.
I think we also want to include reservists in that.
Oh, Guard, Reserve. Oh,
right.
yeah, yeah. I think the Guard and Reservists probably saw more conflict. I mean, like direct enemy conflict. In my profession, in the medical profession, oh yeah, Guard and Reservists flying air medical evacuation. I flew air medical evacuation for 15 years, and we all stepped back because the Guard and Reservists showed up. And I'm talking tactical air evac, combat air evac, stateside air evac. Oh yeah, Guard and Reservists. You don't turn your backs on those either. Yeah.
Jeff, is there anything you want to add on that?
I think Earl got it pretty well, but I mean, just bottom line is, you know, if you were willing to serve your country, be it in the Guard, Reserve, whatever, you didn't go in and sign, yeah, I'm going to do it as long as I don't have to go here or here. So I didn't serve at all. So all of you that have are on a pedestal. To me, I'll always look up to you, and I'll always bust my butt to serve you, because as you served, I serve you. But, you know, they did what they were asked to do, and they're going to be on my planes anytime they want to be. And I hope you'll do the same thing, because it's not right to just pick and choose. Let's fly them all.
Well, in honor flight. Honor Flight has grown and evolved, and it continues, and I think it's up to everybody in this room and at home to remember what they've said and to continue as we've moved through with World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Reservists, National Guard. They signed the dotted line. So to make sure that we continue to be inclusive. You sort of gave a story, but I feel that's what we want to hear, are your stories, that it's just wonderful to have you here. And we're celebrating 20 years. There are a lot of stories, and you shared one, but I would love it if each of you would share, and I know this is going to be hard because I'm sure you have 1,000 stories, but if you could each share just another story about an honor flight, whether it was an entire trip that was unique to you, a particular veteran, something that happened at the World War II Memorial, but when somebody says honor flight, what it is that you want to tell. Earl?
The most powerful story that I can recall, having done this for 20 years, we flew an honor flight, and when honor flight was first initiating, those of you that have hubs, you know that there's got to be some overlap. You know, you don't just say, I'm going to start an honor flight hub. You got to get somebody who has some experience to join you, and so there's some overlap there. Well, I was the only person, because we were growing so rapidly, and I went to Texas, and I apologize. I don't know if it was Austin, I don't know if it was Houston, I don't know if it was Dallas, but we'd gone to Texas. and did some Guardian training, and then there's the first flight going from Texas to Washington, D.C., which is really pretty cool. A lot of Texans on that plane, of course. And so we toured, yeehaw, yippee-ki-yay. But anyway, see how I ended it right there? Yippee-ki-yay, and then I ended it right there, yeah. But anyway, we're flying back, right? And it's like a 2.5-hour flight to get back to Texas. And I'm talking to this guy, you know, I try to make the rounds, and I'm talking to all the veterans. I say, hey, where were you at? Where did you serve? And I sat beside this one guy. He wasn't very tall. He was a World War II veteran. And I said, so what branch of the military were you in? He goes, well, I was in the Army. I said, so where did you serve? And he goes, I served in a lot of places, a whole lot of places. And he just left it at that. And I said, well, man, we got a 2.5-hour flight. You could share with me where you served. And he said, I started with Patton in North Africa. So if you're a historian at all, if you've ever seen Band of Brothers, this guy was with the 10th Army, started with Patton in North Africa. They won North Africa. Then they went to Sicily. And then they went to Cyprus, Italy. And it was never, oh, good job. You freed North Africa. Oh, good job. You freed Sicily. You freed Italy. No. You're still alive. You pack your stuff. We're going to the next country. He went all the way up through Italy. And he goes, well, I went to Italy. And I'm embellishing here, but as he's telling me the story, I know what he did. And he goes, and then we went to France. We come into France. And then we started heading into the Rhineland. I knew who I was talking to. I was talking to somebody who was on the front lines for 2.5 years, getting up every day, going and fighting for another country, and it was never enough. You got to go to the next country. You need to go. I had to ask a question. I said, what motivated you every single morning to get up and go fight? Every morning for 2.5 years on the front lines? Where did that come from to get up and go fight? And I waited, and he wasn't giving me an answer. And because I could tell nobody ever asked him that, because he was thinking of the answer. And he's waiting, and like an idiot, I thought I'd volunteer an answer. I said, were you fighting for your friends on either side of you? And right away he snapped it. No, I wasn't fighting for my friends. He said, all my friends were dead. He said, on either side of me, I had replacements. He goes, I had replacements of replacements on either side of me. You didn't make friends after a while. So I said, so what were you fighting for? And again, I waited, and he's contemplating this answer. And this time, I wasn't going to volunteer an answer. If I was going to take a half hour, I was going to sit there and listen to it. And then he put together the greatest answer I'd ever heard. He said, I was fighting for my wife that I hadn't met yet. I was fighting for my kids, my grandkids, my great-grandkids that were not conceived yet. That's all of you. That's all of us. He wasn't fighting for his black great-grandkids. He wasn't fighting for his straight or gay or, mixed, Democrat, Republican. He was fighting for his nation, the future of his nation, the future of his personal family. And that's all of us in this room. I will remember that conversation till the day I die. Every one of you are sitting here because somebody answered that call. And they were willing to die for you to be sitting here. And like Jeff said on his first flight, he goes, everything that he has, and I mean everything, is due to the people who have fought for us to be here. Yeah, that's my story.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And I know so many of you, there's always that one story that you carry in your heart, having been a volunteer with Honor Flight. Jeff, do you have one for us?
Yeah, I'm not going to go as deep as Earl on this one because I want it to be something that I know if you've done this long, you're going to have some really good stories and stories that touch your heart and stories that will make you have a really hard time telling them. But I'm going to tell you this one. And we used to go to, early on, a lot of dinners. People would invite us, even into D.C. And after we had been doing this for a year or two, we were invited up, and Marcy Kaptur, Congresswoman, right? Marcy Kaptur, who was, I believe, the first person that in Congress that recognized the fact that there was no World War II memorial, and how kind of ridiculous it was. We had the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, we had the Korean War Veterans Memorial, but we did not have a World War II Veterans Memorial. And I was sitting with her at this dinner, and we were talking, and I said, you know, I really appreciate that you recognized that and actually did something about it, just like Earl recognized that, you know, through treating so many World War II veterans that they weren't going to get to the memorial. And I said, Ms. Raptor, thank you so much for, you know, making sure that you got something going to do it. And Bob Dole and Fred Smith raised the money and built this incredible memorial. And Bob Dole was there too. And she goes, well, I'm really happy that we recognized it finally and we got it built. But she says, I want you to know something. And I said, what's that? She goes, you and Earl in honor flight brought it to life. Think about it. She goes, to the left is Lincoln's Memorial. He never saw it. To the right is Washington Monument. He never saw it. But once that memorial was built, honor flight brought it to life. So that's you guys. And you think about it, I love the days that we'd be there and we'd be standing up on this Atlantic side with Bob Dolan looking out, and that place was crawling with color. All the different T-shirts from all over the country. It'd be one of those 1,000 veteran weekends. And my life was awesome. Just being a piece of that. But just remember, all these veterans, all these memorials are there, but every time you come up here, you bring them life. So thank you.
As I keep saying and reminding everybody, it's the 20th anniversary of that very first honor flight that changed so many lives and is continuing to do so. Is there anything that concerns you about the future of honor flight?
I'll get this one, Earl, first.
Yeah.
Because I know where you're going to go. But, you know, I want us to get through what we have, but I hope someday there's no need for us. I'd love to not have wars and when we did not have to do this. But as long as we do, it's just important to keep the best people running our hubs. You know, I always like to say my legacy, a big part of my legacy with this is Meredith. And the little phone call that we had when she had no idea I was going to do it. We got off a conference call and I said, can I keep you on for a minute? And she had a law practice doing well, and out of the blue, I said, if I can get this all changed over to a CEO-driven organization, will you be my CEO? And I'm sure she thought I'd lost my mind at first, but she didn't say no. And the next day we talked, and she said yes, and we didn't even talk about money. We just talked about, and she had been our attorney for a while, doing a lot of things, along with Seth, but she was the person I dealt with the most. And we had to deal with some things that weren't fun. I saw what she was, I knew what she knew, and you know, the board just snapped it up like that, and the rest is history. And the organization she's built, and primarily the ladies that run it and tell us all what to do, they're so good. But I'm going to take this point for everybody here to thank Meredith Yeah.
Meredith,
Meredith,
get
stand up. Stand up and turn
You make
around.
us get up.
Stand up and turn around. Get up.
It's the story of my life. I get cut off. It really does take a village, and you know, being able to continue that legacy and having the foresight to find somebody that you believed in and knew could bring us all here. So I do want to also say thank you, Meredith, and to her team that she's put together and all the hard work that they do.
Such a badass team, man. They're just awesome. You don't want to get crossways, so.
She threw us out. She threw us out of.
Yeah, she threw us out earlier today. Earl and I both out of the room.
During one of the lectures, we were misbehaving. Jeff and I were talking a little too.
Wait, you were misbehaving?
And she walked over. Get up. So we go outside, and I said, Jeff, does she know who you are? She threw you out of your own summit.
She didn't.
No. She. Can I share my opinion
Yes, please do.
of
Yes.
Meredith real quick?
You don't
Meredith
do
was
anything
hired
real
for
quick.
a reason.
You've got 3 minutes and 40 seconds.
All right. So, has anybody seen the Honor Flight movie? Okay. In that Honor Flight movie, there's a lot of hub leaders in here. I know there's hub leadership in here. When you go to the World War II Korean Memorial, whatever, you're not really enjoying it. You're not. Because you're looking at every single veteran that's there. You're making sure they're not wobbling. You're making sure that they can negotiate the steps. You're watching, and you wish you had eyes in the back of your head. And every one of you, a guardian can focus on one person, but man, if you're in leadership, you are super alert. Not really enjoying everything, but you want to make sure because you promised that family you're going to get that veteran home. And that's a heavy responsibility when they're 80 or 90 years old and they don't walk and they refuse to go in a wheelchair. But anyway, in that movie, you see Joe Dean. He was the one that did the Honor Flight movie. He's there, and they're doing the changing of the guard. And the camera pans over to Joe Dean. And Joe Dean, he's like this. He's not real tall, but he's looking over everybody because he's not watching the changing of the guard. He's looking out for his veterans. I can tell you from personal experience, there's somebody looking over, protecting our network, our program, like you look after every veteran that's on your trip. And that is Meredith, and that's Marion, and that's a crew. Everybody at Honor Flight Network headquarters, they know how important this is. They know how critical this is. And when they ask you to do something, when Meredith comes up to me and says, get out. You do it, because I can tell you. She has your program. She has your veterans. She has every hub in this nation to look over, to watch over. So I would ask that you please, if you get a phone call from On Flight Network headquarters and they're saying, hey, I'd really appreciate it if you would do this or that, please keep in mind that, yes, you really love your program and you really love your veterans, but I can guarantee you, Meredith and Marion really love your program, and they really love your veterans, and they really love the reputation of this nationwide organization. Okay.
And don't screw the buses up, because then Angela will get all over us too. And you don't want that.
Come on, most of you have military experience. You know when you're given an order that you need to do it. I would love to sit here all night and talk to you both and hear more of your stories. I don't know if I'm really good at time management or why I get picked, because I'm always the person that's standing between you and happy hour. And
you
I
yesterday.
have literally a humongous clock in front of me that's basically telling me to stop talking, which I'm sure that people around me are going to carry this around forever. That says that I am finishing with 5 seconds to spare, and I would like to say thank you to Earl and Jeff.
Now it's red. The whole thing is red.
But thank you all. Jeff, Earl, thank you for being here as often as you are. Thank you for never getting tired of sharing your stories and your continued support to Honor Flight as it continues to grow. And Jeff, I heard you say, you know, I hope that we exhaust it because we don't have any more conflicts and we won't have to bring anybody else to Honor Flight. And even though we all love it, I think we would all agree, you know, that would be our ultimate goal is world
No more
peace
wars.
so that we don't have to continue. But thank you, Meredith and the staff. Thank you. I'm
Hey.
sorry, we're out of time, Meredith.
We got to say one more thing.
One more thing.
Yeah. One more thing. Matthew, get your butt up here. Come here.
Yeah.
Get your butt up here, turn around.
Come on up. Let's lay it on here for him. I mean, he's been putting it out. Come on in. Come on in. Rick. Have a word. Have a word. You can talk about us.
You know, well, thank you. And yeah, Meredith, come on up too. I'm going to say a lot later. I love this organization. I love you. And you know, as a chair of the board, it's extremely special because I get to stand on the shoulders of giants. And these are 2 incredible giants. And I think I speak for the whole board that it's a special honor for us. And I see my colleagues here. It's incredible. But I love what you said about, you know, hopefully there's never a job. There was, I don't know the quote, there was a World War II veteran who was called the greatest generation. He said, we're not the greatest generation. The greatest generation is the generation who figures out how not to have war.
There you go.
And so you add that onto it. So I'll say more later, but this right here, this was amazing. So thank you so very much. And thank you for allowing me to be part of it.
Good job.
I do. Hi. Okay, so this is it for our general session today. We have dinner back in the same ballroom. You can sit with whoever you want for dinner tonight. You don't have to sit in your assigned seats. And I'm not sure on the details, so please check your summit schedule for the details on when the happy hour opens and then when dinner starts. I believe the doors are going to open for dinner at 6, and the dinner will be seated at 6.
Doors open at 6:30.
Sorry, doors. See, I didn't know. I didn't have my papers. They're in the back. And I got all, you guys got me all emotional, and I was sitting on the floor, and I had a hard time getting up. There's a lot of things happening. It was a lot of things. But please check your schedule for dinner. Doors open at 6:30, apparently, I'm being told. So if they open sooner, sorry. That's blame Matt. Thank you. Thank you all so much for all you do. Thank you.